Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the Hispanic Voice podcast. Today I'll be reading an article from thehispanicvoice.com. It's published to the website April 14th, 2016. It's written by Mr. Al Vasquez, and it's titled, Spearing the One You Fear. During a trip to Mexico this week, I was stunned by the similarity between Mexican thought, Democrat thought, and Republicans thought. Their attitude is anyone but Trump. As Americans, we have always believed thinking was our specialty. What has happened to allow a great portion of our nation to become so politically correct? In fawning, we now allow retrogrades and foreign nations to spell out who America will have as leaders. It is perfectly understandable to hear Democrats slamming the Republicans' leading candidate, but to hear the establishment, leadership of Republicans singing chorus with Democrats and Mexican leadership does not boggle the mind. Totally disgusts the political soul. What is macabre about securing our borders? What is so asinine with Americans deciding who enters, and in particular, stays in our country? What is the wretched intent described by anti-Trumpies with legalizing the border situation and identifying the estimated 11 to 15 million illegals among us? It is not politically correct to say illegals. We must say undocumented. No one wants to see these undocumented millions suffer, but the obvious problem is we as Americans will inevitably suffer from overburden, crime, or terrorism. In 1986, when the Simpson-Mazzoli immigration reform bill was passed, the border was to be secured. There was never any effort made, and today we are back to square one, only the numbers have quadrupled. Perhaps as Americans, we have a revulsion for truth. Passive Americans would rather chastise Trump than to look into the facts of what he says. Israel, in the heart of the Badlands, created a barrier, normally called a fence. That is the only way Israel has managed to survive in the midst of hell. To protect the Queasy, we must never mention fence. We must call it a barrier. Millions of households have fences around their homes, including the White House. Are they bigots simply because they choose to secure their borders? Apparently so, based on current attitudes. Perhaps we are also bigots simply because we lock our doors at night. Why? Because the majority of Americans are not as stupid as they advocate. We give ourselves ample reason to guard who comes into our house, but yet we pretend our nation is not our house. Today, we have cultures arriving beside South Americans who have no intention of assimilating. They arrive with no intention of becoming like us, and every intention of changing our entire culture to reflect theirs. The culture they are escaping from is what they intend to build in our backyard. Their religion, their manner of dress, their disrespect for humanity, their willingness to enslave you are not negotiable. And the pretend fence we now have guarding our border is a joke condoned, encouraged, and defended by every politically correct Democrat or Republican who believes we can will ourselves to be loved by humankind simply by being vulnerable. History has blessed us with multiple advantages of multiculturalism, but we have always insisted on a cultural linguistic unity we are now willing to abandon. America is becoming more and more diverse, multiracial, multi-ethnic, and socialistic in many aspects. Socialism or Mohammedanism is no longer sneaking in the rear door. Our leaders invite them into our living rooms. Advocates of the socialism and Mohammedanism fairy tale are shamelessly exploiting our political correctness, our unwillingness to stand up for America, our wanton disregard for what we see developing before our very eyes. This is a big reason Trump is assaulted with everything, including the Constitution, convention rules, media bias, establishment, politicos, and conniving hocus pocus. Anybody but Trump says it all. 37% of the nation can readily see what is going on and will stick with Trump through thick or thin. 50% want the status quo to remain the same, and 17% are too befuddled to know the direction of up. This is no longer a Republican or Democrat issue. It is an America issue. Minds have been awakened, New voters are coming online. The light is being cast into the darkest recesses of politics. Dirty shenanigans are being exposed, and a national dialogue has been thrown into the political mix. The era of hope and change and close your eyes has been devastating. Just remember, American honor cannot be taken from you. It must be relinquished. Well, folks, that wraps up this edition of the Hispanic Voice podcast. I hope you enjoyed the article as much as I did. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Take care.